Hello.
Hello, Louise. Hello, Binbin. I am trying to find the participant list. Like it's gone from the Zoom UI.
Oh, I see.
Hello, Susan. Hello, Luis.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, Luis.
Hey.
Susan and Bingbing.
Good
Good
morning,
morning and good
Feynman.
afternoon.
Did you try to put your oh, I see you now, Feynman. Because it showed like a black screen for a while, but then
Okay, I'm still trying to find the participant list. So trying
what do
to
you mean?
move my.
What do you mean by the participant list?
Yeah, isn't there a like a button that you can show who's in the call, who's in the lobby?
Yeah, it's in the bottom of with the chat and next to the chat and to the.
Yeah, let me share my screen quickly, see if you can spot it. So there it is. Once I've started sharing screen, it came up because the bar changed. Okay,
I see.
I will now
Oh yeah, because I think when you're presenting it, like all your frames change.
yeah, but then it's confusing when I'm just in the speaking mode. That button is actually not there. Like maybe it's just hidden behind some menu. Okay, now I'm trying to share my Chrome window.
We can see it.
Okay, thank you. Cool. Trying to pin some window. Nope, the bar is completely gone. Okay, I think I'll be able to see if people turn up in the lobby, but if you see anyone trying to get in, please let me know as well. Okay, so everybody can see my screen and we'll do a quick rundown of our PRs, and meanwhile, feel free to add to today's agenda. We currently only have one discussion about issue 1145, so feel free to add more to the list. Looking at the Ratify list, short PR list today, add contribution letters been open forever, add missing quote for Azure Identity Client ID, looking at the comment count. So Akash, are we still just looking to for the customer to respond?
Yes, that's correct. No response from them yet.
Cool. And vulnerability report scanner, we had a chat about this on Monday. You're doing another prototype and doing like a side-by-side comparison. So when that's ready, you'll add it to the agenda and we'll be able to compare the experience. Is that correct?
Yes, yeah. Almost there with it. Hopefully by next week I'll have something to show.
Cool. Looking forward to that. Last one, I got a sign off from Binbin last night, and thank you for catching the customer versus custom typo, Binbin. I've pushed that update. So yes, please give it another round of review. Well, you can look at the commit, and that is the only change. And I wonder, Akash, do you have anything else, or are you good to sign off as well?
It looks good to me for the most part. I actually left a couple comments about half an hour ago. So
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I'll take a look. Cool. Okay. I will be able to like just apply the change after this call. Thanks for the review. So looking at our documentation, PR, I see both Akash and I have left some comments, and Binbin, you have made some updates. Or maybe you're still going through the comments.
I think I've already addressed your comment. Oh, I
Yeah.
guess just do it as well.
Yeah.
Oh, some type of, okay.
Okay, cool. So that one is still in progress. Search store namespace update. I think Akash, you've made a suggestion and I applied the suggestion. Yeah, I think all the tests passed, so I'm ready. This one is ready for another review whenever you're ready.
Okay, sounds good. I'll approve it right now.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, that is everything on our PR list. Let's review the agenda. Let me refresh this page again. Okay, so no one added anything. This one is not a high priority issue, but since some customer pinged us on the Slack channel about not being able to specify multiple notation validation cert. So I just wanted to discuss like what are the possible solutions and workaround. Is there anything urgent that people like to talk about before we go to issue 1145? Okay, Sajay posted a comment. So Sajay, since you need to leave early, do you have anything? Announcements? No? Okay, you're good. Cool. So Akash, we talked about the 1145 in the Monday meeting.
Yes. Oh, yes. This is the multiple certs issue.
Yeah. So
Yep.
his scenario is he needed to. So since he wants to use the default chart that we provide, and since we only have notation cert to that we only allow one certificate, inline certificate, so he wanted to apply multiple verifiers, and that is causing issues for him. So I've left a comment to ask him, is it an option for him to create multiple inline certificate stores and reference the certificate stores in the notation verifier? So I'll see what he responds with. But I think overall, I agree that we should provide an option to specify multiple notation validation cert.
Quick question there.
Yep.
I was going through the code briefly, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can only specify one cert per inline cert store. Was there a reason why we chose to do that versus taking in like multiple certs per cert store?
Yeah. So at the time, I did ask no at the time, but I think our discussion was if you just have one inline certificate, like that is like a one-to-one mapping. You have a name and you have a cert. And if you want multiple, you can specify multiple and then reference them in the notation verifier. So do you think it's better to change it into multiple certificate?
I don't have a preference either way. I just was thinking from this user's perspective, if they've got multiple teams, each with their own cert, that means that you'd have to apply multiple cert stores as well as update the verifier with the new names of the cert stores every time. So I think that second part may be a little bit cumbersome too. So.
Yeah, I agree. Oh, sorry, just let me get Shui in. Yeah, so we can discuss whether we should change the inline certificate to multiple certificate instead of just the one certificate. If we had like a one-to-many mapping, then it's also a little more difficult to delete one. Is that right? Like, Akash, if we want to just remove one certificate,
Yeah,
today we would just say
issue.
like remove, instead of apply, we go delete the inline cert. Like we're just like, it's very clean versus if you were to remove one element from the array, there's more like fiddle around with the JSON to do. Whereas right now, like there's an API where you can do apply and delete.
Yes, yeah, that's true.
So there's pros and cons in, and then also the cert wouldn't have a name. Like you'll just have array of values that you cannot really identify.
So on the other hand, though, you would have to update the actual notation verifier to remove that cert store too. So
Yep. But then the action is very, like you can say, oh, what are the certificate that's configured for the notation verifier through the kubectl commands, which is, I see some value in that. You'll be like, okay, I have, certificate 1, 2, 3. Like they actually have names.
Yeah, that's fair. I think on the other side of it, like our AKV provider, we take in multiple key URLs and things like that, right? So that's actually multiple certs for a single provider. So,
and that would be a key vault object itself because the certificate themselves have name, version. So that provides like another level of abstraction by itself.
Yeah, that's fair. You can at least get insight from the provider itself when it updates the status property with the individual details. But if you had just a single inline cert provider, either you have to make those updates to make it transparent to see what are the different certs configured in that cert store, or you could just rely upon there being multiple resources like we have now. So I think either way is okay. I think in terms of if there isn't a strong ask for support for it, then maybe we can just not do it right now. But I just thought I'd bring it up that maybe we should consider it. So
yeah.
I mean,
the other option. Go ahead, Luis.
Sorry. Do we know like if Rudy Ryan is willing to be a contributor? Like, do we know any?
So he's free to modify the chart. So I was asking Akash, maybe Feynman can provide some insight too. Like in the real open source world, do people usually use the default chart that you provide, or is it usual for people to modify the default chart and have their custom installation configuration?
I think it depends. If for most cases, I think new users will start from the default option or the default mode with everything that you already built in or pre-configured. For advanced users, they may take a look at the values, values.yaml file and see what can be changed, or what are the configurable options that they can configure before their installation.
Yep. So in this scenario, it sounded like he just wants to use the default chart and he wants the default chart to be more configurable. And I don't know, for people who submitted issues recently, do you have to uncheck I'm willing to implement it? Like, is it ticked by default? That'll indicate whether he's actually not wanting to contribute.
Yeah, I think by default, this is empty. Users will need to click on the checkbox to share their willingness to contribute to this feature.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like I feel like this is, something that's very specific to this person's scenario. So I'm happy to see like if there's an option here for him to help us. Like given that the regular contributors are there's already a long list of issues that we're going to be working in the next couple months. Like I love to see if this is one where this person can help.
Go ahead, Feynman.
Yeah, I'm curious about this user scenario.
Right.
So Susan, how did you know the user configured their multiple certs in the inline cert instead of the cert store like AKV cert store?
Yeah, because the AKV cert store takes multiple certificates, whereas the inline one, currently we only have one value called notation cert.
Okay,
So I'm guessing, so to be
Also,
confirmed.
also, Feynman, this user actually reached out to us on Slack, so there's actually a more comprehensive conversation history there. The biggest problem with them applying the cert stores or editing the cert stores is that they're using a project called Argo CD to manage cluster, and that apparently is limiting what resources they can edit and delete. I don't know the specifics of that project, but it seems like that's why they're asking for the ability to do this on installation of the Helm chart.
I see. I just did a quick look at the conversation that this user posted yesterday. So it looks like they want to use Ratify with Argo CD in a GitOps pipeline. So I think that's the major scenario that they want to use. But I think this is a good use case that we may need to consider about how to better support their case.
Yeah, and also I checked with Xinghe as well. From the Azure policy side that's currently in preview, they might allow multiple validation certificates. So it is a scenario that we need to support. But I'm just wondering, like, if we could guide him through the solution, maybe he'll help us out as well. So I was thinking, if we left the inline certificate as is today, Akash, and only allow like one name, one value, if we could just use like a Helm loop to like if it's an array of certificates, we could just loop through all these cert stores definitions. I think it's in the verifier that we have to go through all the inline certificate. So there's two steps. So the customer provide an array of inline certificates, and we have to create the inline certificate store CRs, right? So we'll have one Helm loop there to create all those CRs, and then another Helm loop in the verifier CR to reference them. Would that be it sounds like a straightforward implementation.
Yeah, I think that would be the solution here.
But from sorry.
No, my
Someone was
question.
saying something.
Yeah, I have a question. So in this scenario, how would the customer provide like the multiple inline certificates?
Yeah, that's the other component. Like we can have a new property in the values file to avoid breaking changes, right? To allow an array instead of
This is
one
why I keep
cert.
saying don't do
Yeah.
single value properties ever. If you can, just do arrays always, even if it's one value. It enables
Because
us
it's hard to change later. Yeah.
Right,
So-
but if we change the property, like even that, like what would be the user experience for provide? Like, would they just basically type everything semicolon?
Oh, so
Separated.
currently user can provide a notation cert file, and the cert file can
bundle
contain
it.
a list of this.
You can get a cert bundle basically. That's what happened.
I see. Okay.
Or
The
I was thinking, go ahead, Sajay.
No, the other thing is, I think the scenario, I just put something in the chat. The scenario is valid in my opinion because, let's say, for example, MCR is now signing with Microsoft Cert, and customers will have other registries, their images with their own certs. So it will require multi-cert support in anyone who's going to use an upstream image mixed with their. The other solution is they all sign, they assign all the images and everything comes from the same place, but that's not how everybody operates. So I think the multi-cert scenario is quite valid.
Yeah.
And just on the values point, Luis, I was thinking, so today is called notation cert, right? We could also have value notation cert 1, 2, 3, 4 in the values file. But like, does Helm have a way to, repeat these pattern? But I think array is the cleaner way to do it. But just a thought.
But that's like just going back to the multiple cert scenario, like we do support this through Key Vault, right? Like like this is a case only for inline. We're talking about inline. Like, is that the way that MCR will go?
I don't know. I think the point is Ratify has two audiences. One is how the cloud providers might implement it. Second is if they're using inline certs, how do we unblock them quickly?
Okay. All right. Well, let's add it to the list of issues that we'll try to tackle.
Feynman, have your hand up?
Yeah. As I looked at the conversation from this user and outside, I'm not sure if the inline cert is their intention, is there what they are looking for. I think they just wanna find an option from Ratify that support multiple certificate configuration, whatever the search, the inline search or the AKV. Maybe they don't use AKV in some cases, but I think we may need to reach out to the user and maybe have a deep dive conversation with him or her and understand what are the scenarios and the real needs from the user. We don't need to guess their intention or their expected behavior. And it reminds me that they might be a good fit for multi-tenancy scenario. As they mentioned, they have a team. They have different teams in their organization, and they have a CA issue cert, and have their different certificates issued to different teams. So I think we can reach out to this user and seek for more details from their side. They might be a good early adopter for Ratify, since they have a lot of cases matched our roadmap. I'm willing to reach out to, I think his name is Christopher, and looks like he or her is based in Europe time zone.
Germany.
So I think,
yeah,
Germany, right? So I think we are convenient to have a meeting with he or her, and if it is convenient for their time zone.
Yep, just on the multi-tenancy note, Akash, do you want to, like, we had a discussion earlier Monday about, you know, if we cosign only supports one verification key, public verification key, and then we talked about like potentially registry, because they would say this image used this cert, or this team used this cert, team B used a different cert, and then if we had some sort of regex, because like this customer also mentioned, they can fiddle with they can configure multiple verifiers, but they didn't want to play with the policies because it's complicated. But Akash, go ahead. So Feynman can also confirm this point if he reaches out.
So are we talking specifically about the cosign we were discussing, or which part?
More about the multi-tenancy. So this customer, right, they mentioned multiple team have different validation cert. It's similar to the cosign scenario where like you can only, since you only can specify one public key for validation for each cosign verifier, then you end up specifying multiple cosign verifiers.
Yeah, that's true. So to give some context, we've been doing a deep dive into cosign to understand how can we support a more robust key-based scenario for cosign. Because right now, cosign verifier simply takes one single public key that you mount into the container at a well-known path. But if we were to integrate with our cert stores, for example, how would that work? The problem we're running into is that cosign doesn't actually have a concept of a trust store like notation does. So there's no mapping to figure out which cert should I use to grab the public key from and then do the verification against. So similar to like multi-tenancy scenario, how do you map like which cert should be used for which artifact, or how do I configure that verifier in that way? So you need some sort of mapping where either it's based on some registry domain or some repository or some other sort of metadata to do that. So like one suggestion Bin had was, what if we pulled out the logic of the notation trust store and made it generic so that like cosine and notation could share it. But I think that's like a separate conversation from what we were discussing, the multi-tenancy stuff. So I'll hold off on that. Like maybe if we go back to what we were discussing and then we can talk about it afterward. So.
Thank you, Akash. But in summary, like maybe there's a scenario where people want to say, if I'm validating this image, use this verifier. Or at least use this set of cert or this cert.
Actually, I think Xinhe mentioned this scenario before, and his solution is to specify multiple verifiers, and each verifier has different like cert store. And he will use the Rego policy to distinguish between like the results from those verifiers.
It's kind of messy because now we're talking about so many different levels of administering this kind of policy on it, right? You're talking about policy being administered at the verifier configuration level, then at the Rego you're applying some more policy, which is just like, okay, from a customer point of view, what actually failed? Like, why is it not evaluating properly? Then it's like, oh, is it a Rego problem? Is it a verifier configuration problem? What's going on here? So.
Yeah. And I think at some other meeting, someone mentioned, someone asked that, can you, when you say validate this image, can you just pass in the cert, like use this for validation? Okay. So back to this issue, Luis, should we pull it into 1.1?
Yeah, we can target 1.1. Depending on where we are with the rest of the other issues, might slip to the next one, but
yeah,
and,
I can.
Yeah, I think we can also, after this meeting, I think we can also reach out to this user and maybe book a dedicated meeting with this user to deep dive their scenario. And I guess they might have some ideas about Ratify, and I think support multiple cert configurable in the inline cert. I guess this is not their original intention. And I believe this is a good enterprise grade scenario that we can deep dive. So I think I will be able to reach out to this user to get more context from their organization or their environment. And looks like this user is willing to share, as he talked a lot about their use cases in the Slack.
Yep, sounds good. And I just forgot to, Sadie needed to drop, but he did post a comment. Can we recommend a bundle? Akash, Binbin, Shui, what do you think he means, a bundle? A certificate bundle? What bundle? It's like quiz time. Nobody has ideas.
Is a third bundle?
Yeah, but then like they have different CAs. Like it's not, they cannot be bundled, right?
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
I think we wouldn't, even in its current form, we can't support that. So we need to change like our Helm chart or something to be able to support it.
Support what bundle?
Like support the ability to have different certs with maybe cert chain attached to it from different CAs. That's probably what they're talking about, right? Being able to pass in multiple certificates. I'm not exactly sure what he means by bundle, because but
okay, but we can follow up with Sajay. Yeah, sounds good. Checking on the agenda to see if there's any new items.
I wanted to talk a little bit about cosine, but we can leave that towards the end.
Okay. I think, Luis, need to triage the 1.1 list. Is this a good time?
Yeah, we can.
Yeah, okay. So just quickly running through from top of the list. So the certificate stores in different namespace, I have the PR on that. It's almost ready. So that one is on track. 1060, evaluate if Ratify CRD is ready for 1.0.
I think this one is hindering on like feedback, right?
Yeah, there's multiple things I feel. There is recent discussion, Binbin and I had discussion about like, should we change the verifier to a namespace scope instead of a cluster scope. So Binbin, if we were to change the scope of the verifier and the store, we should do it before 1.1, 1.0, right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yes.
Yep. And then there's also, it's also related into like multi-tenancy. Once we have to support multi-tenancy, maybe that's something we must do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm also thinking
yeah.
that might be something.
So we're not ready for 1.1, 1.0 CRD.
That's correct.
Yeah. So should I move it out?
I mean, if we kind of know that we're gonna have to add the scoping based on namespacing, I think we like what's the output of this? Like, I guess it's.
Yeah, I think we should just name it like upgrade Ratify CRD for 1.0.
Yes, and this yeah, and we can then move it up.
Yeah, upgrade update to 1.0.
Can you add a comment with we already have the namespace?
Yeah, let me add a namespace. We are discussing if we, okay, potentially we are updating verifier. It's a verifier and store verifier at least to namespace scope instead of cluster scope. We are currently not ready for CRD 1.0, moving this out to future milestone. Sure. Okay, the next one, add support for SLSA provenance verification.
I think this one needs to move up.
Yeah. Did anyone comment? Okay, they're just saying the verifier can be leveraged. Oh, so Jeremy commented recent. No, sorry, this is no longer recent, April.
Is this all from last year?
So I'm trying to see, like, this is 2020, 2022. So after 1 year, Jeremy commented. I wonder what triggered him to look into this issue and leave a comment.
There is a salsa verifier.
Yeah. So I guess if they're blocked on this, they'll reach out to us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think we should move this
one. Okay. Multi-tenancy support. Binbin, I think you've already started investigating this one.
Yes.
So that one's good. Verifier vulnerability at admission time. Akash is doing the prototype. SBOM validation. I'm waiting for a PR requirement document from E. So he did say he will have that document, at least the draft of the document ready. So we'll be able to review it next or late this week or early next week. So all these are on track. Change doc references in Ratify error log. Is that one already complete? Bin?
So this is the one. This is the PR in the Ratify web PR list.
Oh,
so once it's
got
merged,
it.
and I need another PR in the Ratify that we need to have a link pointing to the Ratify web, and then it's done.
Okay, yep, so it's on track. Thank you. CRD conversion, we investigated. Thank you for the findings. But we're going to move it out. Is that correct, Bin?
Yes, right. Thank you.
Moved to future. Next one, validate external plugin name while applying CR. So this is I think the work outcome would be adding a status field to the verifier and the store. Do you remember the details about this one, Bin?
Oh yeah, so this is I think this is something we need to add to the controller, the reconcile logic. So when we apply a new CR, we need to do some like very basic validation. And if there is something wrong, we can update the status of each CR.
I see. So today, the reconcile, we create the verifier, but in the creation process, currently there's no error returned. Is that right?
Yeah, for some resources. But I remember for the policy and the search store, we already have the status and we have some like basic basic validation. But for the store and the verifier, we don't have any like update.
Yeah.
We don't have any like validation.
Yep. The question though is, does the factory method to create the references for the verifier in the store, do they already return the error or no?
If it failed, it should return some error.
So the reconcile would fail, but we just need to add the error to the status. Is that the work?
I don't think the reconcile will fail, but for example, if we add a verifier and there is something wrong with the config, and so it will not be added to the verifier map.
Oh, okay. Yep. So the factory creation method did fail.
Yes.
Got it. Which is good. So like then the next step is the reconciler already know that there's a problem with creating the reference because nothing got added to the map, right? But we need to have an easier way for the customer to discover this.
Right.
Okay. Is this based on user feedback? Just wondering, like with the priority, like maybe I should do the Helm chart before this one.
I feel this is something we discussed in the community meeting with PM, and I remember E and Jose has some context on it, but I feel it's not very urgent for now, since even though we don't have the like status, if we don't have the error in the status, but if user do a verification, it will fail when they do the image validation. But if we have some like status, then the user will catch this error earlier. So it might improve the user experience, but it's not a blocking issue.
Yep. Thanks for confirming. Next one, verifier report should contain both verifier type and verifier name. It's assigned to Juncheng. Juncheng is currently not on the call. Is he on the call?
No, I don't think so.
No. Okay. But he's still working with you, Bin, on this one?
Oh, actually, he's actively working on it, and He just asked some questions on this issue yesterday, so I think it's okay.
Yeah, that one's on track. Start server without plugin config. So this one is another, like, no one's blocked on it, but it's like a lot cleaner to remove it from the config. So if needed, we can move this out, but if we can address it, that'll be nice.
Yes.
But definitely the 1066, the verifier report is more important. Increased test coverage for auth provider. I think he merged a PR on this already. Is that correct, Binbin?
I studied the PR. I don't remember if it's merged.
Okay, well, it's not in the open PR list. I saw the PR as well, so it must be merged. So if it's already merged, we can close that one later. I'll double check offline. And then there's the make default verifier more configurable. Cool. I think we still have a month to the release, and I think it's looking good. I'm a little bit worried about the SBOM verifier because we don't have the requirements yet. But so Luis, just to let you know, like this one.
Yep. No, we
don't know what it is yet that we need to implement, so might need to move out.
Yeah,
maybe we can wait for another day to get the requirements and PRD from Eve. I think this is still on track, and you mentioned he will send an early version for the first round of review by this Thursday.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah. We already have the license checker. Maybe we need depending on what it needs, like if we just need another like package checker, for example, then it's pretty straightforward, but we'll see when we get to review the PRD. Cool. And then we still have 18 minutes, Akash.
Okay, cool. So we can discuss some cosine stuff now.
Yeah.
I think
you want me to bring up any issue? There's a cosine issue here.
Yeah, I think there's an
talking
issue
about.
But I don't think there's much on the issue yet. We can take a look though.
So which issue is it?
It's 861.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this one, reading the title, it just sounds like it's about the CRD. Maybe we need like a bigger issue for cosine.
Yeah, this is purely just investigation right now, because I don't think we'll see this work up for 1.1. This is probably post 1.1, but we can discuss that as well. So basically, as I was talking about before, the biggest problem with cosine right now is that it can only take one cert that you configure on Helm chart installation. So ideally, we should be able to integrate with our cert stores to actually provide multiple certificates via like inline or through AKB, because cosine also supports AKB. So the way cosine works is the actual verification happens at a public key level. So you have to specify what is the public key that you're going to use every time you verify against a specific signature. So if you have, let's say, a certificate that you have that you mount via the cert store or whatever, you would have to take that certificate, pass it through cosine, provide some functionality in the SDK to actually grab and isolate the public key inside the certificate, and then use that to actually perform the verification. Now, the problem is if you have cert stores with multiple certificates configured, how do you know like which public key should be extracted from which certificate and then used during the verification process? So one way we were thinking about is have some sort of mapping where you can specify like kind of like a registry-based scoping. So you could say for this specific registry or repository, we want this specific certificate to be used. That is not a super great way of doing it, because even that might not even be granular enough. You may have different certificates being used in the same repository. And also, it's not a great experience to actually set that all up. The user is going to have a lot of pre-knowledge and understanding of, okay, which ACRs or which registries I'm going to use ahead of time, and then where are those images going to be located, and then based off of that, set like which keys that we should look for. The other way that I'm exploring is that cosign does give you the option, at least on the CLI, to specify along with the public key, you can specify the cert which the public key came from, as well as the cert chain. And then when it signs an image, it'll actually include the cert and the cert chain as an annotation on signature. So if we could use that, then we could, on verification, we could generate a cert pool from the cert chain and cert, and then compare that cert pool to the cert pool that we have set up in from the certs list that we get back from the cert store, and then use that as like a comparison point to find, okay, which certificate that we have access to can actually be used. So this would guarantee that you actually have the ability, or you have that certificate that you trust, and Ratify has access to that certificate. So very, very, very initial investigation there that might work. The problem is, like, I don't know what are customers using cosign for. Do customers use cosign and then they actually add the cert and cert chain when they sign? Is that part of the signing process? Or even at a higher level, do customers actually use key-based cosign? Or is it always just keyless, which is what cosign recommends? They recommend using keyless-based signatures. So I was hoping, if Feynman, if you've heard anything from anyone using cosign, or if you have anyone you could reach out to understand what is the consensus workflow that most people are using, so then we can target like which scenarios we need to actually improve on. Because right now it's kind of like shooting in the dark. So yeah, any feedback you might have on this, how we might approach this?
To be honest, I don't have very detailed context about which users are using cosign. We focus on notation side over the past year, so I'm not sure if the user here, I don't know if they are using which verifier in Ratify, but I think we can start from this case. As this user mentioned and asked in the cosign related issue, I guess they might use cosign with Ratify, but not quite confirm that. So I think we need to understand their case. But I remember Toddy mentioned they have a customer who is using cosign, and the request is original from Toddy about support cosign verifier.
Okay, yeah, so I think maybe we can follow up with him to actually understand how they use, like, what is the signing flow? What do they configure, so that we can get an understanding of what we can rely upon? Because like if we go down this whole rely upon the cert and cert chain being embedded as annotations, then we need to be sure that that's actually how people do it versus just us guessing. So
yeah, by the way, in general, I think most of the community users use a keyless signing approach with cosign. This is what I observed from a lot of communities which integrated cosign in their signing infrastructure. But for enterprise grade scenarios, I guess using cosign with KMS is a major approach for them. But I don't get very specific customer case, just some observations from the community usage about cosign.
okay, yeah, no, that's super helpful still to understand that most people are still using keyless. So I think in our current shape, we can support keyless fine. It's just for those enterprise grade options like you're discussing, we need to see how they're using it to see what we need to change. So yeah, so that's I think all I have now. And I'll follow up with Toddy to see if we can get some more details. And then I'll type something in this issue with more of a concrete investigation notes.
Thank you, Akash. And also, I feel in the past, Certec have, he contributed the keyless verification in the cosign, so
yeah,
he could be useful here too. All right. Yep. Anything else before we wrap up?
I just started a draft PR in the Ratify website repo, which is about the Ratify V1 major release blog post. I just created a framework for the blog post, so I think it will be able to request the early review or the first round of review tomorrow. So my plan is that we can publish the blog post on the website first, on the Ratify website first, and then we can cross-post or redistribute this blog post to CNCF website and also the Microsoft Tech community. Yeah, it's just the beginning and only a framework here. So I'm trying to write more detailed content in this blog post to help people deep dive into the design, the plugin design, and also the major scenarios that Ratify fits their needs. I will request a review tomorrow.
Yeah, the titles already look great. Thank you, Feynman. Cool. Then that's everything. Oh, go ahead,
I have
Luis.
a question. So first of all, Bin, thanks for adding the Ratify help chart in Artifact Hub. Is there do we get analytics of people using that?
Downloads.
Somewhere? Right. Do we know?
Sorry, what's the question?
Yeah,
telemetry from Artifact Hub. Is that what you mean, Luis?
Yeah, just basically numbers of people downloading and kind of.
Yeah, let's check that. I think there is some view chart, but I don't know if we have the install data.
Yeah, I
Stars.
also see there's a metrics about how many users viewed this Ratify chart. But we need to investigate if we can get the real download metrics or production uses. But I can see there's a.
Do you need to sign in for those telemetries?
So the owner who published the chart can only see the telemetry?
I think so, because in the GitHub container registry, it is.
I see. Bin, have you already added all of us to the the admin?
Actually, you have to log into the Artifact Hub and send me your username, then I can invite you.
Okay. Yeah. We can take that as an action
if you want
item.
to be the owner, you can just post in the channel and I can add you as owner.
Yep. Sounds good. So we will need to send you our account details.
Yes.
Then when people install Ratify, they would still need to download from GitHub packages, correct?
I think they downloading from the GH page branch. We have a list of packages in that branch.
Yeah. Are there any insights from the GitHub Ratify page that we see, like download counts for the packages, for example? So for example, so Ratify that's published, oh, this is really old, 2021.
I think if you click on it and then you can see the per tag count as well.
Yeah, so there's this number, right? 2219K. So the image is the most popular. Is that the sample image?
Yeah.
But then again, the end-to-end test will pull on it too, right?
Yeah, actually that the reason we have so many is because some of the initial perf testing was pulling from GHCR. So that's caused probably 150,000 of those pulls are probably from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, the image pool matrix is somehow not very accurate, and there are a lot of ways to pull the images.
Okay.
I think we need to
So-
understand how to gather the metrics, how many users download the Helm chart or install the Ratify with the Helm chart. Let's see if we can gather the telemetry metrics from the Artifact Hub.
Okay, so RC8 is very high because of image integrity that went on preview, I would imagine.
No, I don't think so. I think the image integrity, actually, they package their own chart with the resources and publish their own image. So.
Oh, okay. Then why is RC8 so much higher than RC7?
Not sure. There are, actually, there is an ingestion pipeline run in the background to actually package for image integrity the build image, and it runs periodically doing checks and stuff. So maybe that's also causing it. But again, I don't know.
And also the performance test, but I guess you have one cluster with many nodes, not like many Ratify, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, no conclusions made so far, but there's some numbers here in the Ratify package. It's all we can see. Cool. I think we're at time now. Thanks for joining, everyone. Now take care. I'll see you next week.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.